Hello and welcome to Shift Happens, where we talk to the people shaping the future of automotive. I'm Meghan Sinclair, Director of Brand and Customer at Carwow, and today we will be unpacking the biggest trends seen on the marketing circuit this summer, including the latest and greatest on AI and how this is fundamentally changing search and discovery in automotive, plus one that's very close to my heart, why brand is more important than ever to win over customers. We are joined by David Black, Managing Director of Google, who started out in newspaper journalism before the internet pulled him into tech. He spent more than a decade at Google, leading work across some of Britain's biggest industries, automotive included. We are also joined by Ben Carter, Global Chief Customer Marketing and Media Officer. My goodness, that is a mouthful. Here at Carwow, he's also my boss, so we've got to take some notes on that one. Ben also started out in journalism, writing about the internet as it was taking off before moving into marketing at some of the UK's biggest digital brands, from Betfair to Just Eat. Welcome both. It is fantastic to have you here today.
Really good to see you, Meghan.
Great
Thank
to see
you for
you.
being here. Okay, we're going to go into a little opener. We're going to do a couple of warm-ups, and then we will get into the good stuff. Silly questions first. Ready? What is the first car you ever bought?
A Lada.
Aha!
I just learned to drive. I was 17 years old. I saved up my pocket money and I bought the most cost-effective car I could.
Highly
so I bought
efficient.
a Lada. It had a manual choke. A manual choke back in the day. And it really reminds me, actually, I loved having a manual choke. I could literally control the amount of oxygen going into the engine. And it reminds me today of marketers wanting to do everything in search by hand instead of using the power of AI.
The metaphor.
We will come on to this later on.
Yeah, so I was 18. I bought a 1 litre bright blue Citroen AX.
Beautiful.
I vividly remember it. It was £1,000. Bear in mind, I am now 48, so that's a long time ago. £1,000 was a lot of money then.
Yeah.
But this car would only go 69 miles an hour, and I bought it. I was at uni in London. I specifically bought it so I could get back to Southampton to watch the games. And it used to take me nearly 2 hours to get back. That journey now takes me an hour and 15 minutes. It did not have a manual choke, but it did have some very, very weird features, including no door handles.
How did you get in?
It had like some weird, like sort of crevice on the door that you had to, like a lever. Yeah,
Just kind of levered your way.
It makes the Tesla doors now look like something from sort of 100 years in the future.
You're basically in the Dukes of Hazzard.
Well, I was in the Dukes of Hazzard. Yeah, I didn't climb through the window.
Let's wind way, way, way back. You have been at Google for 15 years now. I would love to understand where you started and a little bit more about your journey, how you've got to where you are today.
I've had such a squiggly career. And I think the thing I've learned along the way is do things that you love, that give you energy, that play to your strengths, and then embrace opportunity as it comes, to work with amazing leaders and to be where opportunity is. And so I started out in journalism. I was an intern at the Times. I saw an opportunity to do more in tech and digital at the stage where online was just getting started. And I joined Virgin. I helped to launch what was Virgin Net, which obviously went on to become Virgin Media.
Yep.
And then went from that to be the chief digital officer of the biggest news group in the UK, which was Trinity Mirror, now Reach. And then joined Google 15 years ago in Ireland and then back in the UK. So I've done a whole load of different things across journalism, traditional media, digital transformation, which obviously I now spend a lot of time talking to some of the biggest industries and businesses in the UK and around the world about. And then obviously most recently, 15 years now at Google. And so find the opportunities, find the growth and embrace your passions. And I think that really sets you up for career success.
Tell us where you started and how you ended up at Carwow.
Yeah, so we haven't planned this, but I also was a journalist, not at the Times. I was working for a number of trade magazines, so a internet industry magazine called New Media Age, which sadly no longer exists. David probably remembers it when he was at virgin.net. And then marketing, where I was the news editor, which does still exist today, and is still sort of proudly reporting on the marketing industry. I then set up my own digital consultancy because I was very fortunate, a bit like David actually. My career started out just as the internet started out. And I realised actually that I had gained a lot of knowledge on how to get people to come to websites and ultimately get them to engage with brands digitally. So I started out my own consultancy. Then I moved in-house to a client called Setanta Sports. Had won the Premier League rights, went on a bit of a roller coaster with a company that went from having a £1 billion valuation to actually going into administration.
Wow.
And I was the last employee out the door, selling the database for £1 to Disney, which became ESPN. Then I went to Betfair, where I ran digital across Europe for Betfair, big gambling company post IPO. Not on the high street, an online gifting marketplace. My remit there was as marketing director to really grow the brand and grow the business. And I think another key part of my career has been building brands and trading businesses at the same time. Went to Just Eat, absolutely loved it for 5 years, really helped grow the UK business into the absolute monster that it is today. And again, another sort of trend and theme is around positive disruption. So how do I help consumers? How do we help consumers basically find things that are more convenient for them? But in Just Eat's case, also helping restaurants. Anyway, a few stints in other businesses, Purple Bricks, Dunelm, before ending up at Carwow, where as well as running marketing, I also oversee our commerce media business as well, and that's where we help car manufacturers and adjacent advertisers connect to high intent consumers. I think the thing I love about that is sort of taking a lot of what we're doing in marketing in terms of attracting audiences and engaging audiences and utilising that on behalf of our partners is really, really powerful.
Brilliant. Thank you. I'm going to move us on to the festival circuit this summer, which I know, which makes it sound like a rave, but I've been to Cannes. I wasn't there this year, but I know that other than Sunshine and Rosé, that the two of you were, wandering along the Croisette, which I can never pronounce in an eloquent.
Incredibly hard.
I'm not sure. I'm not convinced.
We won't tell her the story about the sunglasses, David.
Tell me the story about the sunglasses.
You can tell the story about the sunglasses.
So I had dinner with David on my first night in Cannes, and I may have had a couple of drinks and may have left said sunglasses at the dinner. Throughout the next 3 days, David was carrying the sunglasses around for me, ready to see me, to give me back. But we didn't actually meet up till the last night.
I want to say, for any of our partners that are watching, this is the level of partnership that you get from Google.
Lost property back with you.
It's all right, as needed.
Yeah.
And I was entirely,
whatever you need, we'll be there.
on mineral water.
I don't believe either of you. I know that there was lots that you've learned, that you've explored, some amazing talks. I'd love to hear from you both what you noticed, what surprised you, and any key themes that you saw coming out this year.
Yeah. I mean, and on a serious note, I do think it's a really hard-working event. I'm not going to convince you. I'm like, come and join us next year. Come and join us next year. But I saw 3 big themes from all of the conversations and meetings and events I spent time on in Cannes. And so the first was that this incredible AI moment, and the opportunity that presents to marketers. And so you've now got these AI tools that so many marketers are now tapping into. And so for one example of that, my favorite one is AI Max, which is a tool on Google search. If you turn on AI Max, you get 14% more conversions at your target ROI. I mean, that is incredible. Yeah, wow. So AI is delivering real results for marketers. And it's also supercharging creativity. And so I did a hackathon with my team yesterday, and you can see people producing incredible new ideas who maybe wouldn't have come from a kind of classic production or creative agency background, but who can have an idea and can now execute the first version of that and then build on that idea. And so that kind of really powerful combination of human ingenuity and this amazing tool in AI, I think is really powerful for marketers. So whether that's for driving performance results, whether it's for creative work, whether it's for improving measurement, I think AI is doing amazing work. And you could really see that coming through the rise of YouTube creators. They were really the talk of the town. And so I was spending time with some of our creators, like Brandon B., who now has 14 million subscribers on YouTube, 14 million subscribers. And so the creative economy in the UK is now significant. These YouTube creators are now the startups of Hollywood, but also London and Wood Green and Chorleywood and communities all over the country. And I think that's really, really powerful. And obviously that's an opportunity again for marketers to be able to tap into the power of those creators.
Yeah, I agree. It feels like there's been quite a big shift between thinking about them just as influencers and moving into a kind of creator economy where they get prioritized over and above other types of marketing spend, other initiatives. But it feels like that and AI have gone hand in hand, actually.
Because the creators are using AI. YouTube is now the biggest commercial platform in the UK by both reach and watch time. So the scale of it is immense, and that's a real opportunity for marketers. Lots of conversations were about in Cannes was then the power of data. So for an event that was sort of founded on creativity, I thought this was really interesting. But actually, data is the fuel for AI. It's the fuel for creativity. It's the way that marketing results get measurable. And so spending time on data for senior marketers, I think, is something that obviously one needs to entrust to your team, but needs to be a priority. So getting your data strength really strong, sorting out your data foundations, I think is actually, it was emerging priority that really came through strongly this year.
Yeah. And from you?
The big themes of
Big
Cannes.
themes, big
apart
themes,
from
other
walking-
than your sunglasses and your rosé.
Yeah, I'm walking up and down the Croisette and sweating profusely.
It was hot.
And apologies to everyone who I had meetings with and literally sweated on them.
We should
Really
have
important
hugged.
things to talk about.
I think the thing for me, so sounds really, really, what's the word, arrogant here, but I'm a bit of a Cannes veteran. I think I've been about 15 times. And the thing that struck me this year was last year everyone was terrified of AI. Like literally terrified. And this year marketeers are really starting to lean into it and embrace it. And understand some of the use cases around it, not just to David's point around using it to tap into new consumer audiences and things like that, but also to improve how they work, to drive productivity, to ultimately sort of start to power their businesses. So that's definitely one key theme. The other AI point as well is that there's still so much uncertainty about what this all actually means. So I'll give you a classic example, and I'm sure we'll talk about it in a minute, but AI is obviously driving a lot of top of funnel discovery now. And obviously be remiss of me not to be sat in a room with Google to talk about all the changes to search we've seen. And clearly, if you're talking from a Google perspective, you've got AI overviews now. And there's a lot of there's a lot of sort of, I'd say we're in a middle moment where no one really knows what it means and what the value is of showing up in AI, what the value of having AI visibility is, of being cited. So there was definitely a lot of conversations, particularly from CMOs, around how do we start to understand this? Is this a new strand to our measurement? How do ultimately we persuade the CFO that actually investing in AI visibility is a worthwhile thing to do? Then I think the third thing is the creator piece is absolutely huge. I heard some incredible stat about creator economy is now worth trillions globally. But I think what's actually really interesting for me now is that creators are also sort of being used synonymously with brands, i.e. they're building their own brands, Brandon B, for example, but also brands are using them as almost the future of TV advertising. And that is a really, really interesting concept for me, and something that I think marketeers are really only starting just to get their heads around.
I'd like to dive into a little bit more on the AI theme, but when we talk about that brand equity, so something, OEMs have spent decades building their brand equity, their trust, their awareness, everything that kind of bakes into that, all through traditional methods. And as it sort of evolves, when a buyer now asks AI for the best family EV under 40K, do we think that brand equity's been eroded, and what's the reward for brands that have got that earned trust at this point?
I go back to the principles of marketing still apply, right? And David just said it. It's around trust and authenticity. So I really do believe that brand is a performance accelerator, and specifically should be an accelerator, therefore, of what you're doing with AI. And so actually, I think the years of brand building that, in this case, OEMs have done is only going to put them in good stead. But I think the key thing for me is to make sure that they are building on that legacy and actually appearing in the right places now. Because as we know, the audiences are sort of disseminating, right? Media fragmentation has never been as broad as it is today. And so I think it's really important that brands continue to think about how do we build on what we've done before but show up in the right places. And I think that's why AI visibility for me is a really interesting one as well. Is the debate around sort of what's the value of it. The value for me is that ultimately people are using LLMs now all the time to go about their daily business. And yes, whilst ultimately it may only be accounting for a small percentage of traffic hitting people's websites, it's part of their consideration set. Because I'm sure David will tell us, if you start doing a search on Gemini or on Google, ultimately that search you start to have a conversation with the search engine or with the LLM. So it's a much deeper search you're having, and it's so important, therefore, for brands to show up in that conversation in the right way.
Have you got anything?
I'd completely add on that. So I'd completely agree with Ben on that. I think brands are more important in the age of AI than ever before. They're just built in newer ways. And so YouTube is now a huge platform, bigger, the biggest commercial platform in the UK by reach and watch time. Like show up where your audience is, and your audience is now on platforms like YouTube. Your audience is now using LLMs like Gemini to be able to find brands and information, and therefore make sure that your content is really well optimized for those LLMs. And so good SEO is also good geo. And so getting that getting the essentials of marketing right for the digital age sets you up for success in the age of AI.
Yeah, I think it feels like the fundamentals haven't changed. It was
Right.
You're both telling me the fundamentals are still there, but where you lean into and what you have to kind of double down on is using that tech with those fundamentals.
I think also, sorry, Megan, just a really quick one as well. Both a key theme in Cannes and MadFest was monetization of these new models, right?
Right.
So there are obviously other LLMs than Gemini, but there are many of those LLMs are now looking at monetization models. You've clearly got ChatGPT have launched their ads beta now in several markets, including the UK. But you've got other monetization models coming, which is going to be really interesting for me as a marketeer to think about those deeper searches and at what point you want to actually show up, and ultimately what you will pay to show up.
So continuing on that theme, but in a slightly spikier sense, if we know that AI can generate infinite amounts of content and there is still, I think, although we're all in a really comprehensive way, there's still a lot of fear around it. There's still a lot of, I guess, if trust is more scarce, Ben, Carwow's bet on real human reviews and creators we've always talked about as a genuine moat, one of the things that makes it different. Do you think that stands true as these platforms evolve? And I'd love to, once we've kind of travelled down this path, David, I'd love to understand from you where you think the future of a moat such as that would take us.
Again, if you go back to the sort of the principles of marketing and brand being so relevant, one of the things we do at Carwow is obviously we have our YouTube channel, 11 million subscribers, but we also have Driver Power as well, which is the biggest survey of recently bought cars by consumers. We get so much insight. That surveys every make and model that is sold. So the level of insight and data we get from that is only going to sort of help power how we show up in an LLM. So again, I think we're at this middle moment now where human intervention is still so vital. And again, a big theme of all the festivals, the conferences, not the music ones, was around sort of the role of leadership and ultimately how we get businesses to think about being model first, but that's not about robots taking our jobs. It's about creating a culture of enablement. So it's about making sure that the humans are using AI to sort of superpower what they do. So I would argue that our reviews, our proprietary data, that all only helps in that sort of squiggly car changing funnel we talked about before. I think it's absolutely vital, and I am convinced that to your point, the strategic bet we've made there on investing in that sort of those reviews to build trust and build credibility. We know Matt's whole role is we want him to be that person down the pub that the car changer goes to go, should I choose X or should I choose Y? And that's going to be relevant in an age of AI or not an age of AI.
David, buyers are starting their car research inside AI now, not in a search bar. How fundamentally is that changing how people find and choose a brand?
That's a great question, but actually I'm going to challenge it. And so discovery is starting inside the search bar. The biggest large language model by usage in the world is Gemini, over 2 billion users every month in Google search. And so that's changing how people search, including in automotive. So a few really interesting trends that we're seeing. And so firstly, people are searching in even more detail than ever before. So longer searches, over 5 words or more, are growing 50% faster. We used to search for new car or used car, and now we search for the really specific thing that we're looking for. We have more of a conversation, including with Google searching. Find me an EV in North London that follows my exact criteria and has this number of seats and is this range. And so people are now asking those questions. And I think that comes back to human curiosity. Human curiosity is unbounded. And now AI is a tool that helps people to find exactly what they're looking for. And then that's changing the car buying process. So I checked the data against 4 years ago. And so in our latest research, consumers are searching on average for 8 brands. 4 years ago, they were searching for 4. And so that's really important for marketers to then think, how do I get in that consideration set? The number of models that they're searching for has also doubled. And so they're searching for more than ever before. They're comparing more than ever before. And so be in the consideration set. But of course, what you want to be is the preferred answer. And so showing up is really important. Building a brand is more important than ever before. Having great content is more important than ever before. And working with the right partners to be able to get the right distribution is more important than ever before. So discovery is changing, powered by AI, but human curiosity is unbounded, and AI is helping to answer those questions.
And what I would say, sorry, just on that, because I totally agree. And obviously we're a marketplace, right? So we thrive on choice. But ultimately, it's around distilling that choice and being a car comparison engine for consumers. And we see that all the time. So what we see is a consumer will come into our platform and they'll have a very clear idea of what they want to buy in terms of budget. They may even have a brand in mind. And as they go through that journey, that all changes. And again, to your point, David, around that curiosity, right. It's because we're powering that curiosity. We're giving them the context. We're giving them more information. We're equipping them to make that decision. And it's fascinating. Literally, you can look at user paths every day and you see this all the time.
Yeah, absolutely. And if I dive into that, what was short and is now a slightly longer list, I could make a wild leap that some of those would be the new entrants that we are seeing come into we're going... If Goodwood's anything to go by, the size of stand, the presence, the sponsorship, the sheer kind of scale that these Chinese brands are starting to be comprehensively in market with what is a very affordable set of models, and that their consideration is starting to come through the roof. But of course, the market feels like it's all there for the taking. So who wins? How do you win? What are we seeing?
Yeah, again, I think the brands that win are the brands that cut through and the brands that ultimately have an amazing product and they give a great customer experience. One of the things I think you've got to look at the new entrants and the impact they've had on this market is that basically they have come in here. They have been very, very smart with how they spend their money and how they build that brand presence. But they've also got an incredible product at an incredible price. And what we've seen in our data is actually there's always about 9 million car changes a year, yeah? But what we have clearly seen is people who were probably buying a nearly new car, i.e. a used car, have started to buy brand new cars from the new entrants. That's a clear shift in the market. So I don't think it's as nuanced as who wins. The market is back in growth. The new car market is back in growth, which is an incredible story. Yes, the dynamics are shifting, but for me, I think what is fascinating as someone who has only been in the car industry for 4 years, to see the likes of BYD, Chery, Omoda, JQ, Geely all turn up and just totally and utterly disrupt this market for the benefit of consumers is fascinating. And I think what we should also call out, though, is that some of it's rude to call them legacy OEMs, but the brands that have been around for a very long time are responding. But there is a clear sort of battle going on. The ultimate winner is the consumer, right? The consumer is winning because there is now so much choice, as David just said. Sort of that brand set, that consideration set has broadened so much. So it's a really interesting one to observe, but also to be right at the heart of, because we see this every day on our platform.
And for me, it's whether a heritage brand, a new entrant, the people that are using digital marketing and AI the best are doing really well. Are doing really well. And the thing that often surprises me is why everybody isn't doing that.
Yeah.
And of course, there's lots of reasons for that, but I think it's a real opportunity, but also an urgent opportunity to really lean into, use the power of AI in marketing, get the data foundations right, build brands using creators and using huge platforms like YouTube, and do that really well and effectively. And AI can obviously really help that. Incredible work going on across industries and categories. And so maybe for the auto industry, taking inspiration from some of the other work that's going on as well. So I'm seeing the likes of Expedia, Revolut, Monzo doing incredible work, working with creators to create very, very authentic ads and content. I'm seeing them promote that really well on YouTube. I'm also seeing them have really, really strong, well-converting websites. I'm seeing them using all of the kind of digital marketing best practices. And so some of the biggest tech brands are doing this, and the tools to do it are available to everybody. So lean in.
I think the other thing on the new entrants is actually what they're doing very smartly is that they are combining traditional media with creator media. And it's no surprise, because if you look at China, and you obviously where most of the new brands originate from, there isn't really a traditional media ecosystem anymore. It is all creator and social media. So they're taking their learnings from that, they're bringing it into the UK. But they are also using the traditional media channels as well at scale. So I think it's a really, as a marketeer, watching this play out is fascinating.
If you are an OEM marketer or a dealer principal and you are starting to find your feet with this, so if you're just starting with this, what advice would you give to those starting to get to grips with a suite of AI? I actually came back from maternity leave recently, and the pace of change over the last 6 months is wild.
Right.
So if you're just getting started as an OEM or a dealer, what advice have you got?
Right. I think getting the basics right is really important, and actually does a really heavy lift. And so this week I've announced a new partnership with Screwfix to help tradespeople tap into the power of
Amazing.
AI. And at Google, we've got an incredible program called AI Works for Britain. And the idea is we'll keep skilling up and training up people. And so a really easy thing to do to get started is Google AI Works for Britain. And there's some really good tools and resources, some really basic trainings that just teach you the essentials, how to use a large language model. And then in auto specifically, there's a few other things that I think I'm seeing working really well. You can build creative work using AI, and then you can run that on YouTube. You can do paid marketing too. And there's a tool called AI Max, which I love. Lean into those yourselves, get your inventory and data foundations right. And so you get those feeds organized. Use AI on YouTube to be able to build kind of creative, and then promote your business and your brand. I mean, that's a really simple recipe for success.
Thank you. That's great. Ben, is there anything you've been doing at Carwow in terms of starting to build that knowledge with the team or as an execution that you think would be useful?
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely. So I think first of all, just to say that we know that if you look at our Sell My Car business, actually, a lot of dealers are already using AI to do all their bidding, right? So they're very clear on the types of cars they want to buy every day, and they're literally they're using AI to scour our auction and place those bids. But in terms of those people who are sort of probably less confident, I guess 3 things that we have done. One was a productivity hack is run a workshop and get your teams to basically decide sort of what's the most boring, repetitive, manual task they have to do every day, and how can you use the AI tools to automate it. That's been a real game changer. We've rolled out Claude to the whole workforce, right? And we also have Gemini, because we're on the Google Workspace stack as well. But what Claude's enabled people to do is to start to really use it sort of to think about how do they solve problems, and ultimately how do they, again, sort of free up their day. So every day, Claude tells me what's in my diary, the meetings I've got, what I need to prepare, and any slacks overnight I've not read. That saves me probably half an hour in the morning. Instantly, I can put that time to something else. So I would just say start with some of those productivity hacks, and sort of and to David's point, just get stuck in. But crucially, use it in your personal life as well. We know it's human nature, right, about behaviors. The more you do something, the more it becomes muscle memory. If you do it in your personal life for things that you really get energy and excitement from, then I think it'll be a lot easier to embrace it in the workplace.
Great. So let's look to the future. If We hypothesise that soon it may not be a person browsing, it'll be an agent shopping on their behalf. When the customer is a bot, how does it choose a brand?
So again, I'd actually start from people once again, because these are tools. And so I was researching my summer holiday yesterday, and I could go onto Gemini, and I could ask it questions, and it can help me to find the answer. And so with agents, I'm still in control. They're doing some work for me, and they're helping me with research, but I'm still in control. That means that you can, as a person, you then need to get much better at kind of prompting and asking the right questions. And then what does that mean for kind of businesses and brands in auto? It means show up. It means have great content that's ready to go. Have your inventory really clear and well structured, and then make sure that that's available online. But it also means build your brand, so that again, when the agent is surfacing your information in the results that it's bringing back to the user, they recognize your brand. They're excited to find out more.
Yeah, I think it comes down to three things for me. One is control. How likely is it that humans are going to totally let go of control and let an agent do an end-to-end consideration and transaction? That's the thing. I think there'll be utility day-to-day things that will happen, but I think to David's point, when you're buying a holiday or choosing a car, I think still the human angle will absolutely play into it. I think the second thing is brand signals. So regardless of whether a human is involved or not, it's really important that brands build those signals and ultimately they set themselves up right. Then I think the third thing is also, as a brand, how much do you want to sort of make public versus how much do you want to keep sort of back on your website? And I know a lot of publishers and a lot of media companies and digital businesses are now trying to work that out and trying to understand where that balance lies.
And for OEMs and dealers, do you think there's anything that people should give up, stop doing completely? It's finished.
No, I think we're talking about AI as an accelerator. It's not a reducer. So I don't think it's about giving up, but I do think it's about, if you go back again to the point around the 8 brand consideration set, OEMs sit on reams of data about their cars, right? And this data is really relevant now to LLMs. It's really relevant in those very deep queries that consumers are placing. So how do OEMs start to make sure that they surface not only their own proprietary data, but also the validation data from the likes of a Carwow, from sort of where consumers have actually voted with their voices? That's really, really important. That's going to be the brand signals that will be so vital to ultimately helping you be discovered.
All right, final question. Slightly spicy is what we ask everybody.
Yeah.
What's an unpopular or differing opinion that you hold about the automotive industry right now? Something that you think the consensus has completely wrong?
So mine is traditional marketing tools and tactics are the starting point. I'd say the foundations of marketing are the same as there's always been. Build your brand, drive performance results. But actually the tactics have changed. And auto brands aren't showing up enough on YouTube. They're not moving fast enough to use some of the latest tools, and they could be testing, learning, experimenting, but critically scaling even more quickly with AI. And that would drive incredible results.
Ben?
Yeah, I'm going to go right sort of to the top here, but I think the government have our EV policy totally and utterly wrong. If you look at any market where EV adoption has surged, Norway, China, 2 markets as examples, there's been clear government incentives on the consumer side. We see every day there is huge interest for EVs. There's still a huge amount of anxiety from consumers. Unless governments put in place nudge tactics, i.e. financial incentives, to actually get consumers to want to buy an EV, and by the way, have the right vehicle excise tax scheme, because that pence per mile thing that was announced yesterday is incredibly bonkers. We are not going to see EV adoption surge in this country. And it's just totally wrong. This is meant to be a free economy. We are not creating the conditions for a free economy.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We've got some other podcasts that have covered that in quite a lot of detail. They're definitely worth a listen to. We talked to Stellantis for quite a long time about some of that, and I think the government just have to do a bit more. Brilliant. Thank you so much for both being here. We really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you very much. We've loved it.
If you enjoyed this episode, follow or subscribe to Shift Happens wherever you listen to your podcast, or watch the full episode on YouTube. Shift Happens is taking a short break over summer. We are really excited to welcome you back with a whole new roster of guests in September. Thanks for listening. See you next time.